I guess I'm not ready. Going, I brought some cookies if anybody wants to try them. That's what I heard. It's Friday.
Yeah, I'm gonna step out and join it and see if I can hear. I don't know what mic we have selected, what's going in the music.
Usually for
Okay, let me go step out and see if I can hear. That's why I think yes. Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Wait, you got.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's a Friday before spring break, so I know we all want to be as efficient as we can be, while at the same time taking care of our business. So I'm going to call the meeting to order and Lauren's going to start with the roll call. Thank you, Laura. Over here.
All right, Alan.
Here.
Bella.
Here.
Virgil.
Here.
Boyd.
Oh, here, I'm Billy.
Okay, great. Brock.
Here.
Brian. Buzan.
Here.
Chen.
Here.
Collie. Council.
I'm here for now.
Dyer.
Here.
Elias. Allison.
Ellis.
Mhm.
Oh.
Element?
I'm sorry. Element here.
Bassett. Fleming.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Griffin.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Hart.
On the way.
Okay. Hildebrandt.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
Ivory.
Here.
Jansen.
Here.
Kazim.
Here.
Khan.
Here.
Kimbrell. Koshkas.
Here.
Maggiano.
Here.
Matthews. Mendes. Moon.
Here.
Afoe.
Here.
Peralta.
Here.
Riker,
Here.
Robert, Ruffin,
Here.
Schoen,
Here.
Song,
Here.
Shellnut,
Here.
Siciliano,
Barnhart, here for Siciliano.
Swift,
Here.
Talbot, Biswanath,
Here.
Webb,
Here.
Wentz, Yang, Yarbrough,
Here.
Yay, Scott,
Here.
thank you.
Thank you all. Go ahead and turn it over to our discussion leadership. So let the president come up.
Thank you. Dylan said, I know I'm keeping you from spring break, so I'll try to be quick with my comments. One, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, we had the first coffee and conversations. Had decent turnout with a fair amount of faculty and staff. There will be other ones if you didn't get a chance to do that. My intent, as I told the group, was I just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to continue to meet and talk, and that you don't feel like it's just in these venues that you have an opportunity to voice questions or concerns, with me, and we can just have a conversation about what's going on, and making sure that I'm just trust but verify, right? I mean, I may believe things are going fine. The provost may be like, yeah, everything's great. Or parking says all the things are working, and you may say, hey, there's this issue here, or IT is this, or I'm having issues with travel or whatever it is. And so that way I could just hear those issues directly and be able to say, okay, is it just a one-off, or is it a bigger thing that we need to look into? So it's, as I look around the room, it's great to see some of you in red. So I see some UWG merchandise, so always enthusiastic to get that. On the federal landscape, we continue to work with our federal legislators on preserving Pell Grants. There's a projected $16.4 billion shortfall for FY27. And so we're continuing to see how we're going to fill that, as well as opposing any cuts to federal research spending, which continues to be an ongoing issue. Obviously, there's a number of trade organizations that are lobbying with the various subcommittees on those areas, and so we'll continue to keep you posted as things change. College athletics, if you are in that space or follow, you may have seen that President Trump had a roundtable just a couple days ago where he had a number of people there, including President Moorhead from Georgia, to talk about just the ongoing issue with student athletes and NIL and looking at a permanent fix. You may be familiar, there was a House Settlement Act that was signed, and that has driven a lot of this traffic that predominantly impacts the Power 4 conferences and not so much in our space, but NIL does impact our space. We tend to think of it like a AAA ball, in the sense that we spend resources going out recruiting freshman students who may not have been big enough, fast enough, or have the potential to move into Power 4. We develop them, we put weight on them, we spend time, energy, and then they're picked off by Power 4s, and so that time and energy is never recovered. And so one of the issues is putting the SCORE Act. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's the Student Compensation and Opportunity, and it talks about limiting the number of transfers that student athletes can make. Right now, the transfer portal is playing havoc on the process, and as you can imagine, a student athlete who transfers 4 times is probably not going to graduate. Now they're chasing the dollars, and so the SCORE Act limited it to, for memory serves, to no more than 2 transfers. There was another provision that was put out that had it to 1 transfer, and we recognize that student athletes may get in under a coach, coaches change, and they need to transfer because there just isn't a spot for them on the roster or whatnot, and that does allow for some of that. But at the same time, you can't graduate, you can't meet residency requirements for your program if you're transferring every year, and you'll exhaust eligibility. So we'll look at that. At the state level, we're a little over halfway through our legislative session. I can tell you that just as of this week, the Senate was looking at online credit hours and is considering reduced state funding formula for online instruction, because, as we've talked about before, they say, hey, we invested this money in these buildings, this is where we need to be putting our time and energy. And so they're looking at how to control behavior and say, this is what we're going to fund more of, and so you need to do more of this. The specifics of that's just a one one conversation, and what may come out of that may still be in the early stages, but clearly the Senate is looking at, higher ed committee is looking at that. And so I'll keep you posted. We were approved for our 5 million cap funding for the Perry building, which basically was going to address a lot of the HVAC issues and other stuff. Perry's TLC, for those of you that weren't aware that name had changed. And so hopefully we'll get that here, in July, and be able to start moving on those initiatives. Governor Kemp did sign his amended budget. If you were paying attention, there was a one-time $2,000 bonus for all state employees, to include educators. That is not base, so that's just a cash bonus that comes into your account. And then there was also a $325 million endowment created for the Dreams scholarship program. It's kind of a first of its kind to help address need-based versus merit-based that Hope and the Zell produce. Right now, we're still waiting for the framework to be worked out for its implementation, so that's still going through that process. But a lot of it addresses stop-out issues and just short funding that some of our students deal with. So hopefully we'll receive some of that. I had been asked a question earlier in the week about TIAS and anthropology, and I actually reached out, and I have been told that the governor has signed off on the demolition of those two buildings. So now we're waiting on the contract for whatever company is going to do that demolition. So I'll follow up with our facilities to see where we're at on that. I'm sure some of you are eager to grab a lawn chair and watch TIAS be torn down. So although someone mentioned that we could just set it on fire and let the fire department do that. So I'll tell you, fall enrollment is currently looking good. I don't know if you were on campus or were engaged, but we had admitted students day last Saturday. I think there were about 300, 400 students, give or take. I talked to some parents that drove as far away. This is about 9 o'clock in the morning from Augusta. So I took that as a good sign that they were willing to even get up that early and drive here. And that particular student had about 7 letters of admissions from various institutions. But, the key thing that I tell them is that it isn't where you're admitted, it's where you'll thrive. And I think here at the University of West Georgia, we do a good job of making sure our students thrive. And so I think those are the selling points that when we're talking to students, it's about the fact that their name. Is that, here you register for classes, not wait lists. And so I think those are the selling points that really go over well with parents. Housing contracts are also up. We have about 1,000 current freshmen. Of course, our freshmen are required to live on campus with limited exceptions, have already signed up for housing for next year. So I take that as a good sign that we're kind of rounding the turn, and not only is our enrollment up, but our students are starting to come back onto campus, wanting that face-to-face experiences, wanting that traditional residential campus life. I had gotten some questions that were shared with me. One of them was with regard to a climate survey. I think that had been brought up early on when I come here. I'll tell you that I had tasked HR to do that. They are working with a third-party firm to push that out. I was told by our AVP for HR that's going to be fall of 26. And so the intent for going to third party is we wanted as much participation as possible. We wanted to ensure that there was confidentiality, and we felt that would be the better way to get that out there. So strategic plan is another thing I'm sure that you're all interested in. So as you know, the Becoming West Georgia ended in 26. And so we are in the early stages, and I mean early stages, of getting a consultant online so that we can begin the strategic plan for the next 5 years. As with any strategic plan, there would be a steering committee that's formed. There would be extensive buy-in from all the constituent groups to include the faculty. I'm well aware that the previous administration made decisions that may not have included as much of that. And I assure you that is not the way that I would handle it. So, not only with the steering committee, but as it goes through the process, they'll have multiple points of touch in that so that we get a great product. My intent is for it to go out live March of 27. So again, it would be a full year of running this. We're not going to rush it. I'm not trying to sneak something past the faculty over the summer while you're not here. Not that work won't still be happening, but we'll have, again, lots of engagement and buy-in to the entire process. As you know, we had done the equity process. Can't remember if we've met since then. The time just kind of runs together. And I think there had been a question about funding. As you know, there's about an $8 million, I don't know if that was in my letter, I can't remember, but there's about an $8 million hole in regards to our current equity situation. And that's 8 million actual to bring people up to the midpoint. That does not include fringe. So if you add fringe, it's even deeper hole than that. And so rather than do budget cuts or RIFs to come up with $8 million to fill that hole in, I felt that a multi-phase approach was the better way to do it so that more people would benefit from getting a little bit and helping bring them up. I realize it had to be in a multi-phase approach because I didn't have $8 million. And the money for that, because I wanted to ask the question, that it came from basically reprioritization of existing operating budget. It's not a one-time, right? That's your base pay. So every year I have to come up with that money. But that's sacrificing other things that also need to be done. There's no shortage of things that need to be filled. There's deferred maintenance, there's fleet vehicles, there's IT, there's all kinds of problems as with anything. It's a complex ecosystem. And so as enrollment continues to improve, we get a little bit healthier after coming out of the COVID environment and some of the budget challenges that were had during the previous administration's time. We're able to begin putting money towards those resources. And so my hope is that we would go into phase 2. But I do think it's important to note that this was extremely important. We wanted to address the salary equity gap issues. You're one of the most important investments. I think I told you that very early on in my time here. It was something that I was looking at. And so I was certainly very serious about following through on that. But also it's a very fragile ecosystem, right? One bad enrollment cycle, one bad, building HVAC issue or whatnot. If we don't have a lot of strategic reserves, and you can easily burn through that and you're right back in the same position that you're in, right? I mean, so that's why we constantly are pressing about enrollment and making sure we're retaining the students that we have, we're getting them across the finish line so that we can have those resources to be able to apply them where we need to. So I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you have, but other than that, that's all I have. Yes, ma'am.
Mentioned that you use the CUPA for the data analysis. So we wanted to know like what years the data they use. For instance, do they use like 10 years, 2016, 2014 data, or they use most recent? And also what institutional categories you consider when they do the analysis?
Absolutely. I'm going to turn that question over to the provost because he's in a better position to answer that.
Yes, it was the most current year's Coupa data. And looking at our Carnegie classification, it was some PhD. So looking at the disciplines, not only was it the latest data, but it was also by CIP code on individual faculty basis and by rank. So different disciplines were considered differently. So it drilled down specifically into, I'm an associate professor in psychology at some doctoral Carnegie classification, latest salary data.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday the 13th. Hopefully a black cat didn't cross your path this morning, unless you like cats. In which case, come by Sanford because we've got a few around the building there. Kind of our, spreading some love and joy on Front Campus Drive. I've just got a couple of quick updates. I know that Brian and Lucretia are going to be talking to you about ORS and investments that we are making in scholarship, creative activity, and research and grant writing. And I want to commend everyone who submitted those requests for summer stipends and focused work this semester. We've got some program updates, some course improvements that are being made, looking at those DFW rates, and Mandy and IFE are reaching out on specific classes. So I commend you not only on the academic space, as well as the scholarship work that we're getting into, and really some investments that the institution is making in pre and post award to give you what you need. If we've got these heightened expectations and where UWG absolutely can go in external dollars and our scholarship, then we need that infrastructure to make sure that we're turning that around rather quickly. So more to come. I don't want to steal their thunder, but you'll see that on the agenda in a moment. Also, Karen and Shelby are talking about timely feedback in midterm grades. And I'm glad to see that APC is bringing forward this recommendation about changing the midterm grade reporting and giving some time. About a year and a half ago, the USG policy was updated to allow institutions to change when the midterm drop day, by which time you had to withdraw with a W, was added. So giving some more runway there. APC has done that work, and that's great work. The flip side of that, though, is that we do need to have that timely feedback. We need to make sure that that's going in and students have know where they are in the class. And some of our work in Common Course components and you all giving that feedback to students has really improved. Last thing we want is week 14 and someone doesn't know where they stand and they don't know if they should or shouldn't withdraw. And USG and UWG policy leans into this. I think 99 out of 100 times our faculty are giving that feedback, giving a little bit more runway to allow people to have a deeper conversation. And what I love about this recommendation is that week 11 then is also, hey, let's talk about this. You say you want to withdraw, but maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should continue, and you can do okay. Also, again, an update on the dean searches. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because that's an HR matter and those committees are working confidentially. But I'm pleased to know that these are the pool data that's coming in. I appreciate Karen and Mike chairing those two committees and the faculty on the search. The pools are looking really good. The target is still to have those on-campus interviews. Help me out, Karen.
First of
Okay, I was going to say mid-April, but that's tax day.
Yeah.
Early April.
Maybe mid-April,
So
we'd love to have it earlier.
Pencil those in. We definitely want feedback, not just for the faculty in those college, Perry College and Chass, but also holistically, because we're all in this together and we collaborate extensively. Similarly, if you have pulled up the job boards or if you've been on LinkedIn, you'll see that we have 2 AVP assistant vice provost positions that have been posted in academic affairs and faculty affairs. Going back a bit, this would be Jill Drake. Trying to think back, was Kathy Jenks. And we've had some changes in structure in the office of the provost. These are investments in support for academic programs on the AVP-AA side, and then faculty and working with faculty senate and workloads and all of these conversations. We're trying to avoid timing out. Thanks for moving the mouse. On the AVP for faculty affairs. Those positions and the links to the job boards will be posted in the AA newsletter on Monday. So I encourage you to look at those, see if that's of interest to you or a colleague, nominate them, both internal and external, looking forward to, and we'll be standing up those committees, including reps from faculty senate. These are important support positions and really kind of backfill these needs that we've had. David Newton's been doing a great job in the interim. And as I announced in October last year, now it's time to fill those. Here we are in the spring. We've got 813 pages of agenda today. And that number sticks out to me because that's the area code in Tampa where I grew up, right? 813. And I just point that out because UPC, GPC, we've got the engineering sciences, we've got updates to arts, we've got updates to grad programs in here. We are not in a lull. Yes, spring break is next week. And some people have called me across campus this week and said, oh, I hope you have a great week. Yeah, it'll be great. we're still going, right? And I know even though you all might be, going to a beach, maybe a little bit warmer, you're still working, and the evidence of that is in this agenda. We are working on enrolling students, getting ready for fall and spring, and even summer, right? And the courses roll on, so we don't stop. And I appreciate all the work that folks are doing that's evidenced in this, some great improvements into curricula. As the president said, Admitted Students Day, we had lines in front of these tables. Thanks for everybody that was there, the PCs and all the support that the faculty bring. You all are selling those programs, and every student that I saw, we're still recruited, even though they've been admitted. To the president's example, this student was admitted to 7 different places, and they're looking at UWG as their number one, but we've got to close that deal. And I appreciate the time that you all put into that. It was a great day, a lot of energy. If you have feedback on that, please send it to me, send it to Cassidy, send it to Joseph. We're interested in what improvements we can make. And I know that some of those tables were 15 people deep waiting to talk with you. So we're looking at also restructuring and shifting maybe half of those students and their families coming in at one time and half in another, just kind of load balancing across campus there. But it was a great day. The weather held. We also had some prospective students that haven't been admitted yet that we're still trying to get here because of the no ice day that we had, a month or so ago. So kudos to everybody that was involved there. Last thing I have for you is, please pencil it in if you haven't already. The general faculty meeting will be on May 1st. So I know that that's a busy time and you're finishing up the semester and grading, but I do want to come together. We're going to have some informational items at that, but also celebrate our colleagues who are being promoted and tenured. We've had a great cohort, as always, come through, and we want to celebrate them. So we'll be formally announcing those publicly on May 5th. Sorry, 5th month, May 1st. Any questions on anything from academic affairs? It's a new building, it's still settling in. All right, appreciate you very much. If you think of something, please reach out. Hope you have a wonderful spring break. I know you'll still be doing things, but I hope you can step away, recharge, refresh, and earn that time that you so well deserve. Thank you.
You all must really want to hit the road. Questions. So 813 pages is actually not all curriculum. We have some other committees that have some business they want to share. Just briefly from me, the only announcement that I really want to talk about and update everyone on before we all lose attention is a couple of weeks ago, I asked for feedback on a USG faculty council vote on how to deal with affiliates. I appreciate you for filling out that poll, giving me some guidance. The feedback I received was very clear. 78% of the people who filled out the poll opposed the bylaw changes. So yesterday I voted no on that proposal. The vote is open until 5 p.m. today, so I don't yet know how that's going to go. I'm hesitant to try and read the tea leaves on it, but so we'll see. But thank you for that. Voted no. Do any committee chairs have anything that they would like to share that is not listed on the agenda? Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and move to UPC. So we have Anka here representing UPC today.
Thank you. Do we have any names or abstentions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I know we moved through these curriculum committees fairly quickly now, but I do want to reiterate what the provost said. We moved through them quickly in Senate now, especially compared to years last. But this reflects a lot of work that happened on the front before we get here. So GPC, please, same thing.
Yes, GPC submitted 19 action items and no questions so far. 30 seconds. So then, all in favor of the slate submitted by GPC, raise your hand. Thank you. And any opposed? Or any abstaining? Thank you very much.
Okay, APC has been extremely busy as well. Ms. Shelley, would you like to share?
Their constituents, and after discussion with everyone, we recommend to the president that UWG raise its GPA requirement for admission to be commensurate with the other USG regional comprehensive institutions as a first step to ensuring students' success. Do we want to open that up?
As an information item, we don't have to. Of course, you're welcome to if anyone wants to talk. She's not asking for action. APC did vote on this and APC had very significant discussion, heard from a lot of different constituent groups, heard from admissions. I thought it was a very thoughtful process.
You were discussing in the committee and with folks is no higher than 2.5. So we were talking about. And it's in that discussion, when we had Cassidy Nelson from admissions, she said that in raising it to 2.5, it would mean that there would be 34 students who are currently enrolled that might not have gotten in, but they would also go through the appeal process.
Thank you. Have some other items on here. Would you like to talk about any of these or?
We recommend that curricular and content review policy be created and conducted by individual programs as required by discipline-specific accreditation or industry standard. And then we talked at length about academic withdrawal policy. This was brought to us both by the provost office and the faculty member in terms of the hardship withdrawal. For the regular withdrawal policy, we recommend that we extend it to 10 weeks. And with the 11th week being a review period for the faculty member and student to discuss if withdrawal is necessary. And if a student withdraws earlier than the 10th week of the semester, they have 5 to 7 days to communicate with the faculty member about their grades. And then for hardship withdrawal, we recommend that the institution increase the amount of time to submit for hardship withdrawal from 6 months to an academic year. This came because students often don't know that they have the opportunity to hardship withdraw. I had a meeting after we came up with this recommendation with Dr. Schroer, because there's a question about something that we're going to continue to look into is graduate student hardship withdrawals and how increasing professional responsibility might cause hardship for the student. When I talked to Dr. Schroer about that, he said that's also can happen with undergraduates. So we're going to review. I'm going to bring that to our next committee meeting and look at the forms. And then lastly, we approved, we were asked to look at putting the undergraduate research designation to syllabi or HIP courses that have that distinction, and the APC approved that.
Thank you. Student affairs. Kelly.
So, the charge to the Student Affairs Committee this semester or this academic year was to look at things that might affect student success, things that might be impeding their ability to graduate on time. And one of the issues that we're sharing, just as an informational item, is the committee became aware of some students who had not been able to graduate on time because all they lacked for their degree was an internship. It was a required part of the degree, and the students reported no support from their academic department to secure those internships. So informational item just for everybody to be aware of and, you know, take a look at your programs, take this information back to your department and your programs to make sure that this is not a barrier, to our students being able to graduate on time.
Thank you. So not necessarily, just to clarify, not necessarily the internships are the issue, it's maybe take a look at that requirement if you have the requirement.
Well,
Yes.
but to take a look and make sure that if we require one, the support is there for them to find it.
Good.
That is what the issue was, is that, one student had applied to over 45 places to try and get an internship completely on their own. And all of them were rejected because either you have to have a degree, you have to have X amount of time and experience to get the position. And so, you know, no student should have to on their own apply 45 places to try to find an internship. So.
Rules Committee, been busy, and this is an area where we may want to have some discussion, so I'll turn it over to Marion. I know she would appreciate that.
So, as you all know, our Senate Chair election policies, and we don't, it's restrictive, which is why we do not currently have a Senate Chair elect. So facts are, our current policy requires 2 nominees. Those nominees need to be tenured faculty. They cannot be past or current standing Senate chairs. And then there are some requirements as well that are not uniform throughout the USG system. So Rules Committee is revisiting this policy, not just to address our immediate situation, but to also create a solution to where we could realistically have Senate chairs lined up each year, chair elect, and it would be people we feel confident with. So the committee met and spoke about this. It's only a group of 7. So I did not feel comfortable modifying policy and presenting it to all of you. There are not even enough people on the committee to represent all areas of campus life. And so that's why we're here today. So some of the questions that came up at the committee level they were sent out to you in email, I believe. I'll just read through a couple of them, I guess, and then I'll have it open to questions where you ask, why we ask these questions, or if you want other questions added to this list for us to incorporate into more of an other policy, let me know. But if there are two of the 2 nominees, have to review the policies that we can actually have a fair election. Right, for one nominee, so we not see that as an election. Should the current chair be an automatic candidate on the ballot if there's only one nominee? Again, these are just questions. If the candidate is running unopposed, what percentage of faculty are to approve the candidate? What percentage of faculty are required to participate in the election to have a valid outcome? I think you all probably should feel that's a fairly good question to ask. And I'll pause. There's a couple others, but if you want to have input in this process, now is a really good time to speak up or to at least have my email on your radar so that you know who to reach out to when you've got things. Do you have any thoughts? Yeah.
So just a note from behind the scenes that we currently don't have a percentage listed because there's such a typically, and it's a good number, but it's such a small percentage of the faculty that I would just be cautious of inserting a number in there, but maybe a percentage of the faculty that voted or something along those lines, because it could come up.
Be limited. Yeah. That's fair. Okay, I'll read through a couple of other questions just to give you an idea of what we're thinking of. Is there precedent for the current Senate chair to remain as chair when no chair-elect exists? And what is the expected duration for this? Do not have anything that states any policy for that. We're happy to write policy, but again, it has to fit this institution, it has to be institution. And then two-term limit, that's not uniform. I believe KSU, they've got no, other than no tenure restriction at KSU. Georgia Highlands has some things related to tenure, but some schools say no term restrictions, others say only consecutive terms are limited, but other than that, alternating terms. And then the one question is also, should faculty senate chair eligibility be open to lecturers? As for some tenures are relevant. That's not uniform across the USG, so lecturers could be senate chair, chair-elect. So there are a lot at you, but do you have anything else that you would like the committee to consider? No, even now it's okay.
We know why it's been so hard.
It's not so the short answer is no, not exactly. But it's not a problem that's unique to us. Our counterparts, I'm most familiar with the USG. Many of them have also had issues. The job, I've said this to some of you privately, the job gets a bad rap, and I don't think that's entirely fair. There are some upsides to it for sure. But it has a bad rap. I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is a lot of us are stretched thin. And I think folks who would be inclined to do something like this are already probably doing a lot in their programs and departments. And they think, well, if I step up to this next thing, who's going to do the other things? And maybe I'll leave my program alert. So I think it's complex. But those are some of the leading factors in my mind. I think just in my 2 cents, in terms of some of the questions she asked, some of the big things that I would think about and that I would give feedback on. The eligibility one is a big one. So currently right now you have to be tenured, and we have an increasing number of excellent colleagues on this campus who are not. And I know many of them would be do a great job in this role. So I think they would appreciate hearing some feedback on that point in particular. The term limits aspect of it right now, there are term limits. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not a bad thing. I'd like to hear some feedback on that. In terms of process, this is something that we can only change as a general faculty. So we have to pass this around our general faculty meeting in May. I think what Marion and the committee are trying to do is have some language that we can all have time to absorb and debate and refine in advance of that. So that's why she's really looking for some feedback.
Yeah, in order to have any policy change, we would need to vote on that as a Senate body in April. So, the committee, again, I can move forward with just the committee suggestions, but there's only 7 of us, so that's why reaching out to you all and giving you the opportunity to also talk to peers about what would make sense for our institution. But yeah, those things. Anyway, so you can email any one of us. Yeah.
So just a quick question. When you think about getting folks to be involved in incentive, how does our site and course release align with the other USG institutions with their faculty?
It's comparable. So the course, it does come with a course release, 1 course release each semester, and that's comparable. Our practice is it's either or. So you can take an equivalent stipend or the course release.
Because out of this kind of question, time is wait for a long time for us to be able to respond to the concern. Will there be a provision there about special election in addition to the income zone that is that will be important, that there is a provision that we can quickly? Because I don't think we need to wait until May to actually make a decision. Right? Or until the end of a semester to make a decision that is important. I think we can ask faculty to respond to your question about a policy change mid-semester or beginning of the semester. There's no need to wait for a full year even. I think we might also want to consider the question of special election under what circumstances that can be triggered.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing for us to talk about. Yeah, I think, waiting a full year with no leadership, which would be the default scenario is.
To this specific issue, just speaking as a parliamentarian, so thinking about in terms of the philosophy and practices we adopt. One of the reasons that we convene a general body of the faculty is to have open discussion about issues that are relevant to the general faculty. So we may want to adopt caution if we have a procedure that directs things directly to a vote of the faculty and elides the process of general open discussion. That might be something to consider. There might be a way to develop a process that ensures both capacities are present, but that is something that is generally a concession that sometimes you make if you want rapid motion on an issue versus time for discussion and consideration.
So perhaps we can get in touch with Marianne and the committee if they have anything else. She also, they're working on some general housekeeping, if you want to talk about that for a second.
Yeah. The second thing we're working on, which may come up in the April Senate meeting as a vote, if it seems like acceptable language, is we revisited the university statutes. So it's a document that sort of informs, it's informed by BOR policy, but also then further informs separate pathways of, faculty handbook, for instance, has to follow everything from statutes document. And so the changes we made to that were basically eliminating instances of what we consider subjective language. So anything that required someone's judgment as they were reading it, it just didn't feel like it was appropriate at that level. And I don't have the examples in my head, but the document was shared with all of you, so you can read through it, so you can agree. Outdated citations to BOR policy, so just a bunch of citations, same article, whatever. And now it's all sections. So it hadn't been updated in at least 15, almost 20 years. So we just corrected a lot of those. And then what I feel is the most important is also that this statute document is for all UWG employees, and they had almost no mention of staff. So there were a couple of instances in which faculty were defined and faculty rights in a way were established, and there was nothing comparable for staff. So we added what I believe is clarification to that. So please look at that document. That's something that we intend to put on the April agenda as a voting item, but there's a lot of changes in there. So you have time to process this and send questions to your university. Ask this to clarify.
Thank you. All right, so no old business. We move to ORF and BFS. Come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, that was weird. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, Friday spring break. Most of you know me, Brian Mosier, serve as the Associate Vice President for Innovation and Research, and I'm presenting alongside our Assistant Vice President, LaKeisha Gibbs, in Business and Financial Services. And thank you for the opportunity for Faculty Senate to share a little bit about what we've been up to in ORF and where we're headed. So there's 5 big rocks that we know that the president has given us. And I did also notice that Dr. Guzan has a cup that says "Watch for Rocks" today. That I've been watching them, or they've been watching me. And this is actually a really exciting goal. And I believe that our university is positioned to meet this goal, or at least move towards this goal. It's lofty, it's large, but it's important that we think about what this looks like. And so what we'll do today is talk to you a little bit about where we have been for the past couple of years, where we're headed, and what resources have been allotted to us to move in that direction. So first thing I would say is just a qualifier. When we hear the term research, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And so for today's conversation, research certainly means scholarly activity. creative works, which entails exhibits, art. You think about humanities and how humanities defines research looks much, much different than, say, a professional field or even College of Business, between the point of the realm being publications and very specific tier journals. So it means a lot of things to a lot of us. Rest assured that when we think about research expenditures for HERD, that encapsulates all of that. So when you hear research expenditures, there's opportunity for the work that all of us and how we do that and how that is then defined broadly. And we'll talk some more there too. Okay. Faculty is absolutely the engine behind a research enterprise, and without faculty, it can't exist. And so when you think about the work that you're doing in specific areas, the idea is that the administrative unit, the research administration, supports this work and not directs it. And so really excited about today's conversation and having the discussion about what this looks like and getting your input, not only today, but continuously. The infrastructure and support systems, really since September, my team and ours, along with an outside review, we did a benchmarking of what our enterprise looks like and what comparable enterprises looks like. And we are at a point where we need to right size the unit, and I presented that information to the provost and in turn the president. And it was clear that the number of awards that we have, which is about 85, this year, we're right at $5.3 million in awards as of Q3, which is our highest on record, which beats last year's highest on record. So we're feeling that. I'm looking at many of you in this room right now, and I stay up at night thinking about you, but I haven't done something that you need done on your brain, not me, but our team. So we have felt that crunch, and we're very thankful and appreciative that we're able to do the benchmarking, we're able to show the justification needed to get to the space where we need to be. And so we'll talk a little bit about what that right sizing looks like. The third point, active shared governance. Another piece that is really important that we'll establish, I'll talk a little bit about this on a future slide, is a research advisory committee, which will include members of faculty as well as administrative leadership, so that we have some clear voice and direction of how we get there, that it's a strategic plan that everyone has the opportunity and voice to enter into. Then I think about the next item, student engagement, visibility, enhanced opportunity for faculty, and this all goes with the rocks that we're familiar with. But without enhanced research opportunities, you think about what that means for our students, think about experiential learning, you think about job readiness, the SHRAP program all ties to research. And so we're continuing to look at funding opportunities both internally. Right now, does anyone know when the faculty seed grant is due? Yeah, March 20th. And so coming up, so for those of you that are working on that, good luck during your spring break. I know that we set aside that time so you have a little bit of time to spend to do that work. And then we also have a summer grant workshop, and it doesn't matter which area you're in. I've written a grant before and I just need time to write, or I don't know where to start. And those are stipend based. So that came out in the Academic Affairs newsletter, and we'll continue to push that for the summer. All right. Thinking about our measurable outcomes, certainly a strategic plan tied to where we're headed is what we're developing. The Research Advisory Committee will have an opportunity to speak into that and to guide that process. But these are things like the number of submissions that we have for grants, the number of awards, our hit rate. That'll include things like research expenditures, and then certainly scholarly productivity in terms of whatever that's defined by for your field, which looks much, much different. But looking at those measures are really important. So what are we doing to strengthen the foundation? And here are the points that I'd like to bring just exactly where we're at and we're headed. I know that that may be small for some of you. And so the first piece is that we've been given the ability, very thankful to the provost and president to move in this direction. We haven't had a pre-award coordinator. A graduate student has been in that role for 2 years. And so that is a huge benefit to us. So how we search for, how we find, and which grants we actually go for. So that is that pre-award, helping you define your budget, the budget justification, the writing of that grant, et cetera. So we're really happy to have that pre-award position along with another post-award position. Typically, at least our counterparts at the USG system offices, a caseload, if you will, of grants is about 50. So we have one post-award coordinator right now, as I mentioned, about 85 grants. So really helpful to right size and provide the support that is needed for faculty. So the administrative burden is taken off and faculty can really focus on the grants. And then we also have a data analyst that will be joining us, shared by IFE, IEA, student support. So it'll be a shared role. But on this next point, we have a number of software systems that we'll be implementing. It'll be a phased approach through fall. And how many of you have an ORCID account? So maybe about 30–40%. And so we'll have an institutional ORCID account. And so more to come on what that looks like, but basically it's a persistent identifier, right? So my name, when I search my name for research, it's myself, Brian Mosier, and then a much more prolific Brian Mosier. I've tried to catch him, but he's an MD. He publishes all the time. I can't, but when I pull my ORCID account, it feeds every publication into that is indexed in many, many different types of indexes. And so the important part about that is some of this, it'll be captured already for you when you have an ORCID account, but not only that, it will also capture it for our university. So many of you know we've had Faculty 180, we've tried to use Zytrex, we've used, gosh, you could probably tell me a couple more where you think about how we inventory our work and how we celebrate and make that work visible. ORCID allows us to be able to do that. You think about even our SAC COC accreditation and getting everything on an Excel sheet. Okay, what areas did you teach? What year were they? What are their subject matter expertise? All of that is captured within ORCID. So this is going to present a really great opportunity for us to have what's considered a persistent identifier. There is actually in federal law that we're working, many organizations are working towards having a persistent identifier for faculty. It goes with you wherever you go. Our grad students, our students, it's a number rather than a name. And so whatever institution that you're at, it will stay with you. All of your work stays there. So instead of entering every single time your name and title on it, it's just there. So we're working alongside ITS to think about how that merges together. And then the other software system is SciVol, which is a great thing for faculty in terms of a way for you to show your work and be able to look at and how your work and how that impacts not only here, but many institutions, 24,000 to be exact. It has over 1 million different journal articles that it will feed into, so it'll show all of your work for you. It's Scopus Index, so that's the index that it uses. I'll pause for a minute because between those two systems, it is a lot to take in, and there will be a lot of training and rolling out of these systems. I want to thank, I've asked Brian Roberts to come to Faculty Senate today. Many of you know Brian as our Senior Instructional Designer in Institute for Faculty Excellence. He's been a huge part of working with ITS to get to the point. Actually, I think ORCID was just signed off and ready to go today. And so we're working on these. More to come in the next couple of months. We'll have a soft rollout through spring. If you're able and you're like, I want to know more about this now, we can do that, but it'll come through fall. So that way, this will help you in a lot of ways, including how you monitor your work for annual evaluations and how you support that. It's not an evaluation itself. It's not going to evaluate your work as an annual evaluation. It shouldn't be the only metric, but it will let you showcase your work in a way that makes sense. The other software that we have, and this is really happy about this, we haven't had a qualitative based product for qualitative researchers. And so we have that now. And so again, more to come. We'll explain exactly what that looks like, but many of you saw a survey or participated in a survey by Dr. Liz Pope that talked about QDOS, a qualitative method of conducting research. Many of you are familiar with like in vivo. And so Max QBA does a lot, not only in qualitative areas, but mixed methods. And so it was by far the product that would fit our needs the most based upon the survey data that you all commented on. So there will be training on all of these things. All three systems not only has training available through UWG, but we made sure of that all of those systems you can call. Like I need help with ORCID. There's an opportunity for you to call ORCID, and Paulo will get on the phone with you and walk you through that, or as a group. Same with Sybal. Charity, we've talked with her multiple times. She's available. She'll be available to the faculty to see what that looks like and how you can use that, as well as QDOT, as well as Max QBA. Talked about the funding opportunities. Again, multiple opportunities either within your colleges or with ORS on how you can go after, find, and then write, and then ideally be awarded grants. And then lastly, if you haven't been on our IRB website, I'll point you in that direction, especially if you're doing research in human subjects. There's been completely revised. And so a lot of good information, a lot of the forms that were on that website are all automated now, really easy to follow. And so any questions that you have there, should go to that website. Be more than happy to take them.
Right, as you can imagine, as our research expenditures grow, we're going to need a lot more financial support. And so I am thankful for the president for helping secure some more positions. So what we want is accurate and transparent financial data. And we will be enhancing that. We hired a post-award accountant. First time we've had one of those in December. She has a lot of experience. She comes from the Department of Audits. It actually audits and higher end research and grants for about 10 years. So we're real thankful for her, but she can't do it all alone, as you can imagine. So we also have approval to hire a staff accountant that I was wanting to be here April 1st. But we're trying to get her here, or him here as soon as we can. And that will also support, there will be business and finance supporting sponsored research. And then we also have a research accountant. There will be a higher level accountant that's looking at research across the university, not necessarily grants, but the research you already are doing. So we're really excited about these three positions. And as we get these positions, that will also increase the cooperation we have between business and finance, or maybe we'll be able to have more clear pathways for understanding policy and less like conflicting information. And then in turn, that will help with the faculty confidence and support. As you see, you have more transparent, more accurate data, and we are turning around the financials quicker. You also want to write more grants and bring in more research as well. And then also, really important, this will enhance our institutional credibility with outside vendors, with with auditors, and with just our agencies. So we're really excited. We're going in the right direction. Just we're glad to support the research.
Last slide, and then I'll open it up to some questions. So the research advisory activity. So we recognized that we don't have a mechanism on campus by which we can really think about where every unit has the opportunity to strategically plan, think about how we're, for example, counting our research expenditures, how are we recognizing and celebrating faculty across our institution when it comes to scholarly efforts. And so this council will be made up of deans and or their proxy. I've talked this over with Dylan, as faculty senate chair. I know he's brought it up to executive council. So Dylan will Senate or the Faculty Senate Chair will also sit on that committee, along with the undergraduate Office of Undergraduate Research, which is co-directed right now by Dr. Nate Lowry and Dr. Lisa Connell. It will also include someone from Business and Finance, most likely AVP Gibbs, and then it will Mark Clark, a Chief of Staff, will have the opportunity as well. And so it will have all ideas present, and I'm sure there will be some subcommittees and things that form from that. Faculty Senate will be part of that process, as they should, to inform what we think about as we move towards this $50 million. And so those are just a couple of pieces for the Research Advisory Council. The first meeting will be scheduled Q4 before the end of the semester. Yes.
The official proposal of our rules of order, but may I suggest that someone from the Faculty Development Committee be on RAC, just the chair of the Faculty Senate?
Sure. Yeah, that's right here. Thank you for that feedback.
Why is it Dean?
Sure. And so the research, it's the dean's or the dean's proxy. And so
Faculty that do the research.
Mhm.
Why, why are we adding, another layer of whatever?
I would say, I wouldn't necessarily call it approval. So, for example, I'll take research expenditure because that's part of that target. And when we think about faculty time, effort, and how that time and effort is then reported out, it's the dean that will have to eventually sign off on the amount of time and effort that is being used by that faculty member. That they should have a part of what that looks like.
Thank you, Kennedy. Seems redundant that they're on a committee that they doing things, so maybe I'm a summer.
Well, I think they do it in silos right now. So for example, I'll just give one example. There may be a piece of equipment that's used in a couple of different ways. Or there may be an opportunity by where there's maybe one dean is saying, part of our research expenditure is taking faculty and having them when they travel to present their research. We're counting that as part of our research expenditure, and that would give I would give an opportunity for some thinking of largely as a university of where we stand. And so this is a first go at it, and that's why we're having this. We've looked at some other research advisory councils, and that's the way they were set up. So, well, keep in mind, Faculty Senate has an active part in that committee as well, and there should be reports out of what happens there. Yes.
Do you know, is that going to talk to, communicate, pull from, or feed into other softwares like Watermark? So here in the College of Business, right, we had digital measures, and then we had to move to Faculty 180, and then the university scrapped it. But for AACSB, we still have to have a measure. So now we're at Watermark, which I guess used to be digital. And every time we've made the change, there's been lots of issues. Data gets lost, and you have to re-enter.
I just got a thumbs up from Brian.
Okay. Okay.
So
You're my favorite person in your birthday.
yeah, knew he'd be important to have here. So it does talk to a number of systems. And that, again, even when someone is applying for a grant, it's very common. NIH, NSF, and even American Heart now, some even private organizations, they're going to require that you put that persistent identifier in there, and actually pulls data from your past CV, like your web CV. It just pulls right into that. Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we have midterm grading, timely assignments, and feedback. Helping students be successful, that's a much better title.
Yes.
I'm here maybe to discuss another rock a little bit. So good afternoon, everyone, and I think I'm right before the announcement, so I'll try to make this as quick as we can. My associate dean, Ashley Leggett, joined me because we were supposed to have the Center for Academic Success Director, Shelby Ringer, here, but she is actually now in academic coaching sessions with our students. So we are coming to you guys to kind of as an information and then to open it up for discussion on course alerts, or really like midterm grading and what's going on, timely assignments and feedback. And I'm going to share some data on our course alerts and what has happened over the last few semesters, and then talk about assignments and feedback, really with the thought process here. What really are the best practices, and what approaches can we take as we move forward into fall, so that we're really making sure that students are successful and they are on progress for graduation. So here's a little data from the Center for Academic Success about course alert. I know over the last few weeks, you've either received an email from the Center for Academic Success, or an email from your department chair, or an email from your dean, or your associate dean, asking you to please complete these course alerts. So we open course alerts and right after roster verification. So usually that's week 4 of the semester. And then course alerts are open for 5 weeks. So they close roughly around week 9. And that gives us time now before the withdrawal period. So we're hoping to have about a 10-day window before that withdrawal period. And the reason that we have bumped that back a little bit for week 9 for the course alerts to end is because we need time in Center for Academic Success to reach out to the students and get the students in for their appointments, whether it's for tutoring or coaching. And as the data showed right here, spring of 25, this is kind of where we see course alerts and faculty submissions. So as you see, by week 5 and 6, that's when most of us are submitting our course alerts. And if you think about it in the timing for the center, we're having to outreach to a lot of students and try to get them in over a 10-day to 2-week period to give them the services they need. If you look at fall, kind of the same process where at that endpoint time, you're getting a number of submissions. And then if we go to this spring, you will see that we're actually, and we're down percentage-wise compared to previous spring, and then even our fall rate. So faculty submitting 81% of what we've asked them to do by this time period. And part of this conversation of why I'm here, and the provost and the deans, we discussed this, is kind of timely assignments and when you are ready to submit your alerts. So I, as a faculty member, know you kind of wait to the midpoint of the semester and you give a major assignment, maybe in week 7 or 8. A lot of us do that like a midterm and then finals, and then maybe you have kind of low stake things within weeks 4, 5, and 6. But what we're hearing anecdotally from students and from faculty is, I don't have a grade yet. I don't have feedback. I don't know where I stand in the course. And so if you look at this, it's coming in late for the Center for Academic Success in terms of trying to get the resources to the students that they need before they have to make a decision whether to stay in the course or not. So if you'll go to the next slide, I wanted to show you that, last year we pulled up 73% of students who received a course alert persisted to the next term. If they got a course alert and we talked to them about what's going on in the courses, they will continue to persist. They will come back the next term. Over 70% of students each semester with a course alert engaged with at least one academic support services. So if faculty are putting in the alerts, we reach out to them. 70% of them are coming in to get some type of help from us. You'll see this number, more than 7,200 tutoring, coaching, advising, and SI visits occurred from the students with course alerts. And then I did want to kind of show that when we have students coming to get more services, their GPA average does go up. So we are helping them stay on track towards graduation. So it's really important that I just want to share this with you, because I know a lot of times you submit your course alerts and then you're like, what happens? You don't know. Well, the Center for Academic Success is reaching out to those students. And as you see, 70% are actually reaching to us and coming for those services. So part of this is we're trying to get the students in. You are doing your right good, and we thank you for putting in the alerts, but it's kind of also a continuation of feedback. Once you put in an alert, let the student know, hey, you can get support from the Center for Academic Research. Next. So this is spring data right now for the colleges and schools. And if you'll see, like I said, we had 81% completion from faculty. You'll see the reports that were completed versus those that were left incomplete. And I'm standing before you at the date where my college is not at 100%. So we have faculty members that did not submit reports at all. The course alerts closed last Friday.
Yeah.
Even this week, we still have faculty submitting course alerts. And that's great, but we have a very small window of time now for students to get support services. If you think about it, we are Friday. Shelby and her team are doing active coaching and tutoring today before spring break. Next week, the students are not going to be here to get support. And the withdrawal deadline is March 25th. So that gets them back a couple of days before they've got to make that decision. So with the provost and the deans, we talked about, really, again, kind of what are the best practices. I've spoken to Mandy Campbell and IFE about as we move forward into the fall and have conversations now with your colleagues about when do we give assignment? How often are we getting feedback early in the semester for students? I know that Mandy and I talked about the sooner students hear feedback from a professor, they know their grades in a couple of weeks, they know where they stand in the class and whether they should stay in the class or if they should withdraw from the class sooner rather than later. If we think about this, if a student does withdraw March 25th, they have invested a lot of time already in your course, and then they're not going to have to. So I'm here to really ask, can you talk to your colleagues, talk about when assignments are, feedback schedules, and then we as deans, and I think the provost wanted to know, we already in new faculty orientation and other areas through IFE, talk to faculty about best practices with their assignments, giving timely feedback. But it's really important. I think we're really focused on student success and making sure we're raising that graduation rate, that we are thinking cognizantly about when do we give those assignments, the feedback we're giving, and then letting the Center for Academic Support, our Center for Academic Success, know how we can support the students. Anything else I'm missing? Okay. Again, I do want to thank each of you and your colleagues for putting in the alert. I know it takes time. I know you have to really think about it, but it does matter significantly for our students, and we can reach out to them. So thank your colleagues. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer questions. Yes.
Do you capture any data? And I'm going to give you my example personally. I send emails first before I submit them. That's my first thing. Reach out to students and one question: are you okay? I've gotten a lot of meaningful responses just by simply asking that reason, are you okay? Because I have no idea why they're not coming, why they're not coming. And then I let it be for a couple of days. And then there's a period of time by which I say, okay, I'm going to submit some time. And do you capture any data about faculty reach out to students, but don't necessarily submit the alert? Because there may be a gap in there, and I think that's an important gap to try to capture. And simply because I know that a lot of people, are in contact with the students, will do a lot of things, but it's just one more thing that needs to be done in addition to the job that I'm trying to do. And that's kind of like where the redundancies, that's kind of becomes a bit of a problem. And also there may be a technological issue. But we're doing this because I know that it's possible to capture data from course data, right? And then automatically send those alerts up in the first or the second or the third week if a student has missed an assignment. I mean, that can be done automatically in the background. We don't need to actually ask faculty to do it. So those are just two things.
And I appreciate that. So to my knowledge, we don't collect the first part knowing, like the Center for Academic Success does not know the faculty outreach. We don't know that part. As far as the course den and some automated things, we talked about that. Part of the course, common course components is to leverage some of these things so we can start doing a little bit more automated work.
I do have a final thing. It's also related to the fact that I say these things out and I never get a response about whether they reached out to me or the assignment. And I think from my perspective, because I do put in the work up front, contact student, and then do the alert, I definitely would like to to get a response. If a student, say, for example, who received an alert from me, ends up in wherever they live, right? It would be great if I get a response saying, hey, this student reached out to us and they are for the X, Y, and Z. Because again, it's one more thing that could probably help all of us, right? Be the village that the student lead to get into.
So after each appointment, whether it's tutoring or SI, or they go to other services, the mentoring appointment on different parts of campus, it's follow up by documentation of a note. So on campus, I can look at Jane Doe and see all the services they took advantage of in EMB system. But you would have to log in and look up that. Because there's 7,200 students, I'm not sure if there's a way in the system to prompt you to get an email on, say you got 150 students. Would a faculty member want an email of the 150 students they put in reports to? I'm not sure what the answer might be. If all 150 showed up in each individual email. But there is a way as far as documentation, even though I'm not directly connected to the Center for Academic Success actually doing the services, I can look in at Susie. Susie was referred to counseling, went to their advising appointment, went to tutoring 6 times for political science, went there for math, meeting with their RA. So I can see the kind of wraparound services Susie is now getting impacted on our campus.
And so that might be a way, like you said, it's really hard that we can't automatically just send back a notice that the student came in and got services. But if you have specific students in your course you are very concerned with, you could look up at those notes and see what's happening.
That's EAP.
There was a question over here and then I'll.
I forgot it.
Okay, sorry.
I was just curious of the number of students that don't get back to you after you reach out to them.
Well, I think according to the data, it's usually right now about 30%, 40% just kind of ghosted, they don't. Yeah, and they don't cover services. And it could be to Sal's point, they may have already been reaching out to the faculty member and getting some additional support. We just don't track that interaction. So maybe they get an alert and they do go talk to their faculty member. They don't come for coaching or tutoring, they go straight to the faculty member, or if some of our courses do have graduate assistants or other student assistants in there, they may be reaching out to them. So we don't get that.
Thank you.
It might be helpful to send out an email that that explains the buttons, the button that says, submitting these, but I'm going to come back to it, submitting this, it's done. Because I think when we first got the early alert software, that was very confusing. And I think there has been a long time since that has been explained again. And so there might having to know which number.
I don't think that one is necessary, and I'll take that feedback, but Shelby created on the Center for Academic website a flow chart. So faculty were saying, I submitted a response, what happens? And so if a student gets one alert, here are the services and outreach that's taking place. If a student gets 2 alerts, here are the services and support that's taking place, to kind of show you as a faculty member what's happening once you submit the alert and how the flow chart is going to get support for research.
So that's great. But I was saying when submitting,
The buttons
it's
are
hard to know which one to.
Okay.
And I know that's silly, but.
We can certainly go back and make sure we have that information. And then I do want to, emphasize that we in the Center for Academic Success throughout University College too are really trying to make sure that we provide opportunities to share things that are going on with course alerts. We've had some training modules and different things that we've been willing to get. And like I mentioned, the new faculty orientation, we're really trying to make sure it's there and that faculty are aware of how important this is. Again, I just kind of asked the faculty senate, as you go back and you're talking with your colleagues, I know you get inundated by these course alerts and you're like, one more thing, but it is really important for, these to be submitted. Students will have the resources they need if we can have their names and get in contact with them. But also just thinking about that chart I showed you in that week 4 and 5, it's the latter part where we're getting inundated with your alerts and having to be able to provide those resources as quickly as we can to the students so that they can have the right information and the support they need to stay in your class to figure out or whether they need to make that withdrawal. So if we can think about that timing, is there some way we can, as programs and discipline, instead of having a midterm only be that main grade at week 8, is there a way to have another significant grade earlier? Does it make sense in your programs to do that? So that in that chart you see, we could have outsourced, we could really in week 2 or 3, once alerts go out, start to really reach out to your students. So we can give them many more resources they needed in this semester.
Also, we can report like kudos, right? Throwing that out there. I don't know how y'all reach out to students. I think those are the important. My other question is, say for example, of a class where I don't have any students who I want to report, but does clicking that there are no students to report, that's actually counted.
Yes. That definitely helps us. So I think that's the other key component. You've raised 2 great things that I failed to mention the kudos part. So you can submit kudos on behalf of the students. And when you do that, we get them. It does really make a huge influence. The students were so excited to see that part. And then the other thing is, yes, if you have an alert, if you have the report asked to you and you don't have any concerns about students, just let us know that, because then we can move off of that kind of the numbering of those students.
If I had to choose between writing a personalized email, congratulating them on, going up by 20 points between 2 assignments and submitting kudos, what's the difference between how a student experiences those things?
Like you personally have reached out to the student and congratulated them? I don't know, because I wouldn't know anecdotally.
I mean, does anything happen with the kudo? Does somebody reach out and say, hey, we see this happened? Like, do they get a high five from somebody directly?
Yes.
Okay.
They do.
They
do.
Especially if a student is connected to multiple units on campus. So say they are in a first year learning community or in an XIDS course, or they're in a fraternity and sorority. Sometimes those kind of branch out. So if I'm seeing a student one-on-one, I'm high-fiving their fraternity and sorority, they high-fiving. So it's multiple people, especially if the student is connected across campus, that are saying, good job, we saw their biology, good job, on campus, to help them feel supported.
Nice.
Taking days at the midpoint of the semester. I don't quite know how widespread it is. It takes me about 5 hours to do it, but I've started doing that. One of the reasons is that in case, for example, in many STEM courses, there are exams which have a lower score, but then there are assignments, homework, etc., which have a higher score. Students often do not calculate a weighted average. 25 years ago, and I should say this with my provost and dean seated here, my remark used to be, if you are in a chemistry course and you cannot calculate your own grade, your grades are not. And I used to say that out loud because we calculate elements of the periodic table based on the same ID. But now I have started doing that. And it turns out that students are pleasantly surprised that even though they might be making a 60 on the exam, their estimated letter grade is a C after one takes a weighted average. Second, this is something that many of us do. A student might be having a high D or a high C or a high P, but for them to know that they have an opportunity to improve their grade in the latter half of the semester is actually inspiring. Finally, again, I hope that my leadership does not get ideas. I want all of you to Google NYU chemistry professor fired, and it turns out that it was an individual who was let go because he gave low grades to a pre-med class, and you know how pre-med students are, and the students did not know where they stood in the class, and that was one reason why he was let go. Thank you.
Look into the E-Core and how they're doing that. That might be interesting. Yes.
Is it possible to consider students tutoring services or where the students get support? They present a note to the professor as a form of feedback regarding their receiving services. The professors complete these forms, but there is no feedback. Meanwhile, the students may have received the support. So this professor is thinking, well, I completed a video question in the next or the year. When there is no feedback to the professor, if they could receive a no, just show to the professor, say, okay, I'm seeking services. Then the professor knows. This student reported his sought services, that's for his.
So as soon as the student seeks out services and makes an appointment, they get an email to say, hey, John, can't wait to see you on Tuesday at 2:00. They get reminders, so they can actually print that out for you to say they showed up and they made an appointment to seek out services.
In that same vein, every student that comes to see me after I do my email to them, are you okay? If I meet with them or in person or online, whatever, I ask them, after our meeting ends, I ask them to write up a summary of the meeting and then send it back to me with questions if they have any further questions. Again, it's a bit of a closing of a loop, just so that I understand that they understood what we were talking about first communication card. And that's what we're asking. Hey, it's a little bit of a, even if you ask, now you need to email your professor and let them know that you are receiving it. The other thing is too, that when a student makes an effort, to really go out and reach out for help, I give them a benefit of the doubt. But if I never hear that a student is actually reaching out and trying to get help, I assume that the student doesn't care, and there goes the benefit of that. So I think it's really important that somehow we emphasize to the student gets those services, reach out to the faculty, because ultimately their grade is going to be determined by what that faculty does.
So I greatly respect wanting to close the loop and have the feedback back to faculty, because as a faculty member, I wanted to know as well. And there are the way the notes are documented, so you can check that way, but we'll think about these other ways too. I will say this, please be mindful that some students don't want to tell you that they went and got class support for your class. Like, they don't even want to know that, they don't want their friends to see them in tutoring or coaching appointments. And I think they would be sometimes hesitant to tell you they had to go get those support services because they don't want to look like they're not doing well in your class to your face. So I just want to lay that out to you. So we'll think about this, but we've heard from students that, they are very conscientious about being seen, that they have to have support help in that.
I just want to say something that might be a common experience of a lot of faculty members interacting with the system, and that might go towards the decreased rates of completion of these in a timely manner. I know this might be more information for pass along to the CAS rather than for either of you. When I complete my course alerts, I can broad guarantee within 24 hours, I'm going to have 3 or 4 people who've withdrawn from my class. I'm going to get those withdrawal notifications. So I see, and I don't have any sort of follow-up or any good way to know, like, was there any successes out of me getting those submitted? So for me, at least, like looking at these, like my DFW rates and trying to look at those, I could say, oh, those 3 students, if they stayed in my class, they might have been successful. Maybe they had that misestimate of their grade or their chances to complete. So I definitely have known a lot of colleagues who see the EAB system as sometimes being detrimental because they don't see those successes. I would say some way to report that or get that information to faculty members, maybe in a more consistent way. I think even the data you presented right here was very helpful with that. But I would say, like, that's why I think probably a number of faculty members have that same like experience based on just how the system is currently set to provide information.
Figure out a good way, because I think one reason I wanted to show this data and also talk about kind of the GPA, it can be helpful. So we'll figure out a way to make sure that that gets shared broadly. Maybe we do an end of the year report to the provost with all these, but yes, figuring out how maybe we could share it with the deans and then get to the faculty. Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you all. And that is all that we have for today. I hope you all have a great spring break. Take some time for yourself, please. See y'all.
I mean, I could make fine. Let me say in perspective, the good thing is the holiday, we're going to the gamers, this year, so I feel like we had.